Hey, welcome to Motherhood Equipped, where faith, wellness, ambition, and birth all come together to equip moms to lead with courage and unshakable purpose. I'm Brigitte. I'm so grateful you're here, and I'm committed to learning out loud and living my motherhood journey on purpose right alongside you. So let's link arms and step into all the potential that you already have. Hello, you guys. This is Brigitte speaking on a solo episode, sharing my son's birth, my oldest of the two, and then I'll share my youngest's birth story at another time. But I wanted to share this one. It is, if you had to put it in a box, I would say that Russell's birth story is a positive home birth, if you had to put it in a box. But I think what preceded it was a lot of confidence building and growing, and sort of figuring out what I wanted and what my priorities were, and overcoming a lot of fears. Since he was my first, I had a lot of fears. I don't know what's necessarily normal, but I probably every single one in the books when I first got started. I hadn't had a lot of exposure to birth or babies before then, so I really was going in totally blind. And I'm just going to walk you through that whole story. And then, of course, Luke's, my second, his birth story is totally different. So I had a home birth with Russell, a hospital birth with Luke. They are very different. And I would say that in hindsight, I'm so thankful for that because I feel like when I do come across that new mom or soon to be mom or whatever, and she's, struggling with some hesitations or some fears, I feel like I can relate to sort of both those different camps of hospital birth versus home, and of course, birth center is sort of in the middle somewhere because they are very different environments, and a lot of, your environment dictates a lot of your birth and the support you're getting and things like that. So let's dive in. So Russell was born this is 2022. We were living in Maryland at the time, and I started at a hospital. I was like, oh my gosh, found out I was pregnant. Okay, great. Awesome. Find the nearest hospital, which happened to be like a world renowned hospital near us. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sure that I'll be in good hands there. And so I went there for my first couple of visits. Of course, you have to wait that like dreaded 8 full weeks before you finally see someone, which to me is nuts because that whole 8 weeks you're stressing out and you're like, oh my gosh, like, is this good for the baby? Is this food good for the baby? Like, what should I do? Whatever. And you have a million questions. And then, you know, I don't know, you finally make it there and you're like, okay, well, I've just been stressing out for 2 full months, but I finally made it to my first appointment at the hospital that I was being seen at. Got the cutest little, ultrasound of this tiny little bean. It's amazing how fast they grow, even in that first couple of weeks. But I felt so unsettled. That's just the feeling. That's the word that I have to describe my feelings. Every time I left those hospital visits, and I was there for a little while, I just felt unsettled. I just felt like, something's not right. Um, and it especially rubbed me the wrong way when I was advised to take baby aspirin because they told me that I was at risk for preeclampsia. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. I don't feel at liberty or really want to go into what that is, but it's valid. But they told me I was at risk for that just because I'm a first time mom. And I said, well, is there anything else? And they said no. And I just looked at that and intuitively I felt like, okay, well, the Lord designed me. I am a woman. My body is designed and optimized to be able to bear and birth a child. Just because it's my first time should not put me at risk for anything serious. And I was looking at myself. I'm like, I'm super fit. You guys, I was a Division I athlete. Like I was super fit. I was like 25, 26, super young, ate really healthy. All of my scores and metrics on um, blood pressure, all of those things were great. And I'm like, there's just no way. And I will say also, a little disclaimer, I am not a doctor or medical world basher. That is not my vibe. For those who know a little bit more about me, maybe we're friends on social media. My dad was a surgeon. So I am not one of those that, takes a hard line and says, I hate, insert here. I will say when it comes to all of this, even though I do have a very clear and definitive perspective on what birth is best for me,
And it's very it is a very clear line, especially after going through my birth with Luke, which was very different. I have respect for all the different professions involved in a birth, just because I do have respect for both different camps. So it is with respect that I still say the hospital was absolutely not for me. I just felt unsettled every single time. I remember getting into my into my car in the parking lot at one point, and um, I think I called my dad actually after this or something. I was just in tears. I was in tears. I was anxious. It was my first baby. I'm like, what's going on? You want to do everything right. And I didn't feel relieved of that burden leaving the OBs that I was having appointments with. They weren't relieving my anxiety. They were honestly adding to it. So I said, you know what? I'm done. This is not the place that's giving me the autonomy and the comfort that I need to proceed. So I switched to a birth center. And that was a very short lived little switch because I actually felt the exact same way there that I did at the hospital. Little, you know, nugget for anybody exploring birth centers. Oftentimes they are connected to hospitals and very much synonymous with the hospital, which is great. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I want, uh, to go epidural free, but like I want access to everything. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But a lot of them are so connected that it's almost like having the exact same experience. And that's really very much how I felt. Having conversations with the midwives there, I was just like, we're just not on the same page. Again, that's really just kind of how I'm remembering in my mind. I just felt like I wasn't really being heard. I felt like my wishes, when you are looking at birth, it's really important. You're creating a team. Okay, you are the coach, the team designer. You're picking all the players, and every player matters. You're going to be in one of your most vulnerable, empowered, but vulnerable states of your life when you're in the middle of labor and delivery, and you want everybody to be on your team. Obviously, it goes without saying, delivering a safe and healthy baby and healthy mom, like that is a given, that's baseline. But in terms of all your other wishes being met, which are important, some people like to sweep that under the rug. They're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter that you didn't want a C-section. Okay, well, tell that to the mom who is overcoming trauma from the whiplash of going in wanting one thing and getting another. Of course, we're all healthy, grateful when we leave a hospital or a birth center or somewhere with a healthy baby, but your wishes are still really important. So putting together your team for that is key. And I just didn't feel like when I was at this birth center, I was like, this is just not my team. I continued to feel unsettled. So I pulled back from there, and I was like, well, there's only one more place to look. And so I looked up a couple home births. I had 2 phone calls. The second phone call, I believe, was with Jennifer. And I left that phone call. I hung up feeling like, okay, this has to be the one. I'm going to have an appointment with her. Jennifer is an incredible midwife, you guys, out of Maryland. I did a great episode with her in a previous episode on the podcast. About just basically everything you need to know about home birth. She really does a good job of being just totally straight down the middle, very unbiased, not pushy, not pressuring, not bringing in emotion, just very logic. But when I had my first appointment with her, I felt like $1,000,000. And you guys, I presented this. A lot of times people are like, oh, well, my husband's not on board with home birth, but I want that. And I'm like, okay, well, do your own research first. I presented this to my husband with confidence. I said, look, this is how I have felt at this place, in this place. This is why I want to do this. Let's take a look at this. He and I both took about 1 week to pray about it. And we both came to the conclusion that, okay, Jennifer's the one. This is what we're doing. We're doing a home birth. Because again, I personally, I knew nothing about birth, really. But I intuitively felt like I should have more autonomy. My baby, my decisions, albeit informed, but ultimately my decisions. And I also felt like I could, I didn't feel like I could be fully informed because I felt like I was only in the hospital in the birth center. I felt like I was only getting one side to every conversation as opposed to being shown both sides to every coin, or sorry, both sides of the same coin. I was only being shown one side of each coin. Yeah, I wanted to be given pros and cons and options, and that's not what I found. But after Jennifer, after my midwife, I felt instantly at peace. I knew she was the one. I asked her all the hard questions, you guys, all of them. What if this? What if that? What if this? I think, of course, a lot of it depends on the midwife. You know, her experience is important, her ability to put you at ease. Anyway, back to the story part. Um, Over the next few months leading up to the birth, I gained the confidence that I needed. I was not confident in having a home birth when I decided to pursue that option. I knew that I would gain it as I developed this relationship with my midwife. I had a doula. I took a basic birth class. I was open. I asked them both a ton of questions and they welcomed it. I read Ina May Gaskin's Guide to Childbirth. Highly recommend, although it does have graphic images of childbirth. So if, might not want to have that out on your living room coffee table. But this is where my focus went, not on creating the perfect nursery, which is great, but it's ultimately not the top priority, right? So my focus went towards I need to prepare for labor and delivery like this is the greatest race of my life. I viewed it very much as an athletic event. I prepared my body, I prepared my mind, I prepared the nourishment I was giving myself, everything centered on this race. Right? Like if somebody is preparing for a marathon, that's all their mind is wrapping around that every single day. So I will get right into it now because I've said that I would. But first, I do want to say just okay, again, why I chose a home birth. I wanted autonomy, support. Anybody I wanted could be there to support me. I wanted the peace, the recovery, the respect for my birth, my wishes. Rarely is it an emergency. That was something I was shocked to find because I was so worried about, okay, what if this, what if that? Midwives are actually trained to look for signs that you might need to transfer or something. Anyway, I could listen to my body. I didn't want the pressure of an epidural, which I knew I didn't want because, again, I wanted pain as a feedback loop. I wanted to feel what was going on so that my mind could decide what would be best. If there's pain over here, your body knows to move in a certain way. Anyway, I was at the grocery store with my mom. My parents drove up to be with us because I knew that I wanted them at the birth. And so we were just sort of hanging out, waiting for baby. And my mom and I were just at the grocery store walking through, and it was around 11 a.m. And up until that point, right, again, this is my first time. So I would have a little feel and I would be like, was that a contraction? Was that a contraction? And everybody always tells you it's so annoying. They're always like, you'll know. And then, if you've never had a real contraction before, you're like, that's the worst thing ever, right? It's like when you're waiting for, your spouse, everybody's like, oh, you'll know when you meet them. And you're like, that's the worst advice ever because how do you know, But everybody's like, you'll know. And that's what everybody told me with a real contraction. And then I was in this grocery store and I was like, oh, that's it. That one is different. That was it. And I just casually told my mom, I was like, hey, let's just wrap the grocery shopping up and go home because that felt different. And so that was kind of the start of labor. That was 11 a.m. again, like I said. And I sort of went through just early labor. My contractions got worse. We went for a walk later that day. I could walk through it. But then in the evening and nighttime, it got really bad. After we went to bed, it got really bad to the point where at 2 a.m., oh my gosh, my poor midwife, I called her. We were like, this is extremely painful. I had back labor. It was really, really bad. And she kind of just again, it depends. This is why midwives are so incredible because they have such a hands-on experience, I guess. She just said that she could hear it in my voice. She was like, okay, I don't think that this is really fully labor yet. I really want you to try and take a warm shower and see if you can get your body to kind of snap out of it for a little bit so you can get some rest. Because she's thinking, like I'm thinking, athletic event, you want to preserve your energy. How can we get some rest before things really kick into high gear? And so I did take a warm shower. My contractions completely stopped, you guys. And I went to bed. And so we got a couple hours of really good sleep. And the next morning, I remember just being a couch potato. And I ate a really good breakfast, again, nourishing, balanced blood sugar, all the things. I hydrated. I'm serious, you guys. Treat labor and delivery like a major sporting event because it is. I wasn't snacking on candy or chips or whatever. I was eating good, nourishing stuff that you would eat before a marathon. But I do remember just literally being on the couch. I put on some Disney princess movie just to turn my brain off. And I was being silly. I was I'm about to have a boy, I'm never going to get to watch these anymore. So I just put on some Disney thing. I don't even remember what it was. But eventually I remember I had a very clear little light bulb moment where I was like, what am I doing? I want to have this baby. And I literally just got up, cleared my plate, went upstairs, and I just told myself, I was like, okay, baby, buddy, Russell, we're coming out now. And I started moving and doing the exercises that my midwife and doula had given me to get your body moving. They're the experts. I don't even remember what the exercises were, but I did whatever I was told to do. And I just started moving and getting ready. And you guys, it's just like sports. Most of it is what goes on between your two ears, your mindset, what you're telling yourself. And the birth books reflect this. There's so much talk about communication between mom and baby. If I'm in my head saying, oh my gosh, I'm so scared, baby's going to be scared. Baby's not going to want to come out. You're going to be tense and tight. And I was just like, okay, bud, we're ready. Let's do this thing. Let's get this show on the road was basically what was going through my mind. I'm like, let's get this show on the road. I want to have a baby. I'm so excited. Let's do this. I can't wait to find out what this is going to feel like. And then eventually I had him around 5 p.m. Everything is a blur. I don't know how long my actual labor was. I wasn't looking at a clock. I wasn't paying attention to it. I gave birth to him in a little inflatable tub that my midwife had already set up for us. Weeks prior, they come out and they do all of that stuff in a corner of your house. So I had him in the tub, which is where I wanted. Felt really, really good. I was able to be in whatever position was the most comfortable. I had my doula coaching me through the breathing. That was what I was most comfortable with. Sometimes they say that you can breathe on your own, but I was like, no, like you just tell me. I actually, for the first time, I was like, I wouldn't be told when to breathe and all the things, and she did. And I will say it hurt a lot more than I thought. I was a little bit cocky about the pain. I just didn't think it would hurt that badly. It does. Swallowed all that pride really quickly. I remember there was a moment when I was like, Brigitte, you idiot. Why did you not think that having a baby would not hurt this badly? It does. But you know what? That's another thing that I just like want to smack down right now. I feel like I meet so many moms just in passing, playground chats where they're like, oh, I wish I could, I wanted to do without the epidural, but I was scared that it would hurt so badly. And I'm like, look, like, are not some of your best moments in life the challenges? Like, what if we flip that and we're like, okay, that's a challenge. That's a mountain. I'm going to summit it. That's a race. I'm going to run it. That's a hard thing. I'm going to do it. And it's not about proving that, oh, I can have a baby without an epidural. Again, I wanted the epidural because I wanted to feel the pain. Pain is a feedback loop. I knew that it was important. I knew that I wanted to be fully in control. I knew that I wanted full range of motion of my body immediately after having the baby, which I had. I went on a walk the next day. It felt great. I was clear-headed. I was with it. I was thankful. Those were things that I personally wanted to prioritize. But also, just if that is something you want to prioritize, don't let fear of the pain be the reason why you don't prioritize your priorities, for lack of a better phrase. Anyway, so Russell came out around 5 p.m. Like I said, he was in the water. I never actually had my water break, so he was kind of born still inside the amniotic sac. There was just like a small little leak, but it never like gushed out or whatever. So my midwife just like did this beautiful like. He came out and she just scooped him up, put him between my arms, and immediately on my chest. Like she does it so fluidly that you don't even notice it almost. He was quiet when he was born. He was just on my chest, eyes wide open. He was just looking around the room. It is the sweetest little thing. He's just this little curled up monkey and he's just looking around the room and like eyes wide open, very quiet. But he's still attached to the umbilical cord, like he's getting all the things he needs. And then eventually he like does a little cough, whimper, cry. But it wasn't loud. It wasn't, anything jarring. And it was just the sweetest thing. And he was just like this little bean. And we just sat there for a long time, me breathing and recovering. And of course, my midwife, she's doing all these things behind the scenes, making sure everything's good. I was blissfully unaware. I was just like, oh my gosh, look at this perfect little thing that's been inside me. Like, wow. And then eventually, we kept him connected to the placenta for a really long time, just sort of like did things really slowly. Then we went over to my bed, kind of tucked me in. They helped me sort of take a shower, clean off, get into some comfies, get in bed. And then the rest is history. They did everything right at my feet. Did the cord cutting, cord cutting, all the stuff, baby weighing, all the things. I was so shocked, you guys, at how much stuff It's like a mini hospital comes to your house for one of these. But yeah, that's it. They came to me for all the checkups. They did so much more. I felt like really good emotional check-ins. That was a blessing. Really checking in, like, how are you doing, mom? Just became a mom, huge identity shift, right? Like they did a lot of that. Anyway, that is my birth story with my first. I would say, you know, again, to like put it in a box, it was a very uncomplicated, straightforward home birth, but with a lot of self-discovery and confidence building beforehand, which is all just such a blessing. So thanks for coming along, and I will share Luke's in a future episode.
Thanks so much for listening to Motherhood Equipped. Remember, you don't have to have it all together. You just have to be willing to bet on yourself and then trust the Lord every step of the way, walking boldly in the purpose He has for you. I remember very vividly searching for my first podcast related to motherhood when I was in the depths of postpartum after having my first, and I would have never found the encouragement I needed had the podcast I found not had enough reviews to show up in my feed when I searched. So I'd love to ask if you would pass this gift along to another mom needing encouragement and leave us a review so that we show up in other people's feeds, and also just share this with one friend who comes to mind. Thanks so much.